welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've done a video, and just recently I came back from not one but two trips, long distance trips, and which were very successful. And some of the guys on the trip, the other clients, they liked some of my lures so much they asked me for some. So I made them a bunch, and in doing so I got to use these eyes that I've been using for quite a while on all of them, and this was the kind of lure that I made them. This is very heavy, weighs about a pound. It's a copy of a commercial lure, but I don't sell them, so there's no copyright issues. And one of the things that I've been doing over the years, I've been making lures for about 5 years, is I've been struggling a little bit with installing the eyes. Now, typically installing eyes, you dig a hole with your Forstner bit because it's got a nice flat bottom, and all of these eyes have a very flat bottom and kind of a rounded top, and you pop them in there and you're done. Well, I'm a bit fussy. So I like to get them installed in a certain way. And one of the things I found over the years is that the eyes, the actual true eyes on bait fish, bulge. I don't know if you can see this or not. So I said to myself, well, how do I make eyes that bulge? And, you know, to make sure that they're strong and they're not going to get yanked out. And this last couple batches of lures, I got to practice some different techniques. So I'm going to show you, hopefully the camera can catch the bulge. And there's a reason that the bait fish eyes bulge. It just allows them to see better, because they can get a better viewing angle if their eyes protrude a little bit. Obviously dead forward they can't see, but they can see very well out to the left or the right. And I don't know if this will show it or not. So I've been using these eyes for 5 years. I started with these eyes, and these eyes are just excellent. They're called living eyes. And here are 3 different kinds of living eyes. This is a kind of a red one. It's called Fire. This one's more yellowish, and it's called Wind. And then a more standard eye, it's called Ice. It's kind of like black and clear, where this yellow is quite a pronounced yellow. So the question is, how do we get to a situation where the eyes look like this? Now, this particular lure, I consider these eyes to be perfect. They have the exact same amount of bulge on either side. I have another hook that I made, actually lure, in the same series. It's also very nice and colorful. It has one eye that is perfect and one eye that is sunken in a little tiny bit. Now, does that mean I'm going to throw away this lure? No, of course not. This is a beautiful lure. But as a hook maker, a lure maker, there's 2 things that I look for. One, it should be nice enough to catch fish, and then 2, there's a certain craft in building these things and making them look nice. So when you hand one of your lures to somebody and they go, "Wow, that's really great. How'd you do that?" So there's 2 components. Now, this lure, even though one eye is a little tiny bit sunken in, and I'm talking a little bit, 32nd of an inch, something like that, it will still catch fish. Fish will not notice the difference, in my opinion. But I want to get to a point where I can make this kind of eye 100% of the time. And I'm on this journey, and I'm starting to do better. And that's why I decided to do this video, because I haven't seen any of the lure makers do a video on installing eyes, and I thought, well, let's see if anybody's interested. So this lure, by the way, is something they call a lipless crankbait. This is for trolling. This weighs a pound, and inside of this lure is a pound of lead, and I pour it in through a hole that's right around here. Now you'll never see the lead pour hole because it's always covered up very nicely. And let me show you the contrast to this one. So this was a lipless crankbait. Now this is a lipped crankbait. Now you can see the big old lip on that, and of course as you pull it from this stainless steel through wire, it pulls down this way. So this is the part of the lure that drives it down. These lures can go down to 30 and 40 feet. These lures go down to 20 or 25 feet. And the reason is, notice that the attachment loop is back from the tip. So what that does is, it makes the lure get pulled through the water at a bit of an angle. So imagine this pencil is the leader. And what happens is, this lure has a tremendous side-to-side action. And that's because the location of this loop makes the lure unstable, and it wants to do this. And this part of the lure acts like the diving plane and drives it down, and then it goes back and forth. And none of the lures that I've made in this style have failed. They all work 100% of the time. Now, I wish I could say that for these lures. These lures are finicky, and you have to tune each one. You then drag it behind the boat, and you can see how bent this stainless steel nose is, and what you have to do is tune each one to swim properly. So these are much harder to tune, much harder to fish, where these they just work. And I would never take this lure and send it to a friend and say, go for it, without having tuned it myself. Or matter of fact, I wouldn't even send them, because I'm not making this kind of lure anymore, because I don't have the precision to make a commercial lure with a big lip like this. It gets into the ocean swells, and it turns over and comes bouncing out. And now the commercial lures do that as well, but this one is just a tougher lure to make. And I've made lots of these trying to get these to work, and I don't think I ever really could. So let's put these away for a moment. So how do we get to a situation where we can install eyes reliably, consistently? So let's go down, we have to go a little farther backwards. And so this is what a blank for this lure looks like. You can see it's already cut out. And in order to get the eyes, so when you look at the eyes, to get them the same height, that doesn't happen by accident. So you have to do something, and what that something is you have to drill this hole when your lure still has flat sides. So you can put it on a drill press. You square up your drill press, and you drill a hole, and it comes out the other side. Now that eye location is marked, and you can sculpt this all you want, and that location won't go away. No matter what you do, that you have that location. So one of the requirements of making these eyes perfect is to have them the same height from the top of the lure. Now, will it catch more fish? Probably not. Will it look better? Me personally? Yeah, I'm a little OCD. and I like things to look symmetrical. Symmetrical is a big term for me. I do lots of things on this hook to look symmetrical. Here's one for a fact. You see the tip of these gills? Notice that they're exactly opposite each other. Wow. So if you were to pick up this lure and look underneath, it would look symmetrical. If you look at these strange little fins on the side, you would notice that they're absolutely identical except on different sides. So again, symmetrical. The cut and curve of the lures is as close to I can make it to make them symmetrical. So symmetry is something that is very important to me. So how do we make this blank? So one of the things I do is I will often buy a lure that I want to copy, or I will take a picture off of the internet and I'll print it out on my printer, usually most often color, and then I'll cut it out. Now you have to make sure that you do this, and you can see a grid here, and that grid is to scale. So if I make this 9.5 inches on the computer and print it out, it comes out 9.5 inches. So what I'm ultimately trying to make is this. This is a template. So this is made of thicker cardboard. It's very, very hard to run a pencil around a piece of paper. It keeps bouncing up. So what you do is you put it on a piece of wood that hasn't been trimmed in the bandsaw yet, and you can see the outline in red that I've left. I've also got a center line that I put in, and I'll talk about that later. But I've also got the center of the eye located. So what happens is I mark it, and then I go to my drill press. I make sure to square up the drill bit to the bottom of the drill press, and then I drill a hole that goes all the way through. Now, one of the things about drill presses and little skinny bits is if you put a lot of force on that crank pulling that bit down, that bit can wander around quite a bit. So what I do is I go down a little bit, bring it back up and clear the bit, bring it down a little bit, clear the bit, clear the bit, clear the bit, clear the bit, to make sure that the hole that comes out of here is identical, obviously, to the hole that's coming in size-wise, but not only position-wise. Now, ultimately, what we're going to be doing, let me get rid of this stuff here. Ultimately, what we're going to be doing is using something called a Forstner bit. Now, the claim to fame of a Forstner bit is that it gives you a flat bottom hole. So this is the first Forstner bits that I purchased this about 5 years ago. This is 5/8 of an inch, which happens to be 15 millimeters, which happens to be the exact size that I need for this size eyes. There's lots of different sizes of eyes. I'm just going to concentrate on this one because I use these the most. Now, ultimately, you're going to drill a socket, and that eye is going to fit into the socket. Now, there's no use to drill this socket right now because I haven't done any of the sanding and shaping, and so if I was to do that right now, that would just be sanded off because there's a lot of sculpting. If you notice, the width up here is quite a bit different than the width down there. So there's lots of material that's got to come off. So what I will do is I will start to form this and sculpt this. And after I sculpt this, that's when I'm going to put in this little hole to hold the eye, the socket. Now, just a little note, of course, there's always little challenges when you do all this kind of stuff. This is a high-speed bit, high-speed steel. I get it out of the box, pretty sharp. This is pine. You get this pine at Home Depot. It's called Select Pine. Great, you can get a truck full of wood. It's relatively cheap. It's harder than spruce, but still considered a softwood. But it is harder than you might think. And so you start making your eye sockets, and very quickly this starts to dull. Now, there's some tricks to making these sockets, and which I'll show you when I get there. But this thing starts to tear. It's not as nice. So I have been literally looking for a carbide, tungsten carbide tipped Forstner bit, which this one is, for 5 years. They simply didn't make them. I couldn't find them. Amazon didn't have any. I did searches all over the US. And finally I found them last month. And relatively cheap, made in China. What's the quality like on this tungsten carbide? Don't know. One of the concerns was in the description, it mentioned that the tungsten carbide blades were cemented in. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it's certainly not welded. So, well, the jury is out on this one. But I have tried it, and it does make a beautiful hole. There's no doubt about it. You'll see when we get to this point. So this is a part 1 video. When we get to part 2, we'll actually do this, and I'll take a little video of how I do this. It might surprise you a little bit. It's probably one of the most dangerous things you'll do, using a Forstner bit by hand on your drill press, and it's really the only way to do it. So that's things to come. So in the whole process of making this lure, if we were talking about a 0% is just started and 100% is finished, we are at probably 5%. So this is very early in the build. Now, one of the things that I also do with this template is I mark the loops. So this is going to be a loop, this is going to be a loop, and this is going to be a hole for the lead, the liquid lead to pour in. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, this lure blank is made out of 2 pieces, and you can see where it's been joined. Now, I've used almost no glue to put this together right now because I've got to split it apart. And if there's anything that I found out with wood glue, boy, a little goes a long way. So you can see the scratch marks from the bandsaw. So one of the things I have to do next is I need to true up these sides, make sure that they're nice and smooth and 90 degrees, and you can do that with a variety of sanders. And I have to drill this hole for the loop, for the lead pour, before I do anything else. And the reason is because you've got a flat surface. Now that's why this hole works. You've got 2 flat surfaces, and if you use a drill press with a bottom that's flat, you're going to get a 90-degree hole. When I'm drilling these holes, the lure is sitting like this, so I got to be a little bit more careful. But I'll mark this hole drill the hole. And one of the things I also have is, you can see this hole right here. I put a little channel inside the lure blank, and what that does, it allows me to install a stainless steel, they call it a through wire, and so there'll be a loop at this end, a loop here, and a loop here. This will not stick out. Matter of fact, in order to get rid of that hole, we have to give this lure a nose job, but that'll be later in the whole process. So I'm a little bit away from actually doing the sculpting of this lure, because I have to make these holes and score up these sides, and so that's why having this video being a part one is a good idea, because I'm gonna this is done. So other than producing the video itself, the next part, however, where I actually drill the socket with the Forstner bit, that could be a month and a half away. So that's going to be part two. And so you got to do the prep for the eye, and then when you dig that socket, you're going to be ready for paint directly after that. So painting is farther down. I give my lures 3 coats of Tremclad oil-based paint, and then I can do whatever painting I want with airbrushes and get some rather spectacular results. It just happens that Wahoo love pink, and one of the things a lot of people have trouble getting is these commercial lures in pink. So some people that I met on a boat asked me if I would make them some pink lures, and which I did. I made them 12 different lures like this, and another 6 that were kind of half the size, and we'll see. They're out on the boat right now as we speak.